Hi everyone, welcome back to PvZ Knockoffs. Now, the most recent games have been mostly soulless cash grabs. Today though, we're looking at a game with potential. Mostly intense monster defense. Unlike most knockoffs, people actually have good things to say about this one. Let's find out if it deserves the praise. But before that, I just want to say I have a new Discord server. Information in the pinned comment and in the description. Okay, thanks. Let's go. So first things first, the basic premise of the game is that we're a monster trying to defend our cave from some humans. So yeah, a tower defense game where you play as the bad guys. Kinda like that game Castle Doombad. Does anybody remember that? That was my shit back in the day. I think it got taken off the App Store, which is a major bummer. But anyways, I'm getting off topic, so let's not worry about that. Now we're introduced to Stanley Muskyweb, basically the tutorial character, but he also plays a role in the gameplay. Basically, he summons the defenders, you just tell him where to put them. The basic mechanics are nothing special for the most part. We use dread to summon our towers, which is generated by altars of dread. So yeah, basically the sunflower equivalent. And the pea shooter equivalent are these skeleton guys. And when you beat a level, you might unlock a new tower, like the meat wall, basically a walnut, the Iron Maiden, basically the chomper, the dark mage, which is like the snow pea or a torchwood. I'll explain how it can be both later. And lastly, there's the Spider Charmer, who isn't really like anything in particular from PvZ. The Dandelion from PvZ 2 maybe? Well, he just sends out explosive spiders, they have their uses. Now you might have noticed, only 6 towers, that's not a lot, but it's still more than you think. What do I mean? Well, I'm talking about the Tactics Wheel. Basically, it lets you change how some of your units function. For example, with the skeletons, you can make them attack lower. This lets them hit these shorter enemies, as well as target the weak points of certain other enemies. But it does less damage than the normal throw most of the time, so you'll need to be careful. With the mages, you can make them shoot either fire or ice projectiles, which deal extra damage or slow down enemies respectively. Although the ice attack isn't that useful in this game, first of all, the slowing effect doesn't stack, so you can't make enemies like twice as slow if you have more than one, and also it doesn't seem to affect the enemy's attack speeds. However, later in the game there are these wizards which make either fire or ice shields, so you need to use the opposite attack to destroy them. You know the Zomboss fight? Yeah, it's that same concept. Then there's the Spider Charmers. You can either make them attack the closest enemies like normal, or make them lob shots to target the back. It's for these archers that show up and fire an unreasonable amount of arrows. And lastly, you'll eventually gain the ability to switch the Altar of Dread from generating dread to attacking enemies. It doesn't do a lot of damage and honestly isn't that useful, but it's an option. Enemies don't really switch each level, they just kinda get added on. This combined with the fact that there aren't really that many towers means that succeeding in this game is not the same as in PvZ. In PvZ, you see what enemies you'll face during each level, and you choose from your ever-expanding list of plants to design the best possible defense. But here, there's really only a few different defenses you can set up, so the challenge comes from using the Tactics Wheel to make all your towers work as efficiently as possible. It's a pretty interesting idea, but I do have some problems with this system. For one, it's a lot of things to pay attention to. There were plenty of moments that I didn't notice one lane wasn't being as effective as it could have been. They really could have used like a good audio cue or something, just to make things a bit easier to focus on. But overall I do like the idea, although a few more towers could be nice. Anyways, it's important to keep the gameplay varied, and this game has a few attempts to do so. For example, one level your little spider friend goes on strike, so instead you have to work with this skeleton guy. Now while he can't summon, he does have access to skeletons, and lots of them. And look at the results. This level is by no means hard, but it's a pretty fun change of pace. And then late in the game, the cave will have several holes, which makes things a bit more challenging. And now, let's talk about the final level. So we're introduced to the main antagonist, Sergeant Major General Beanclamp III. He explains that he wants to give the cave, and everything of value inside, to the king. And of course, we're not going to back down so easily. So he returns and joins the battle. So I guess we'd call him the final boss. Kind of, like, he doesn't really attack. He's just a target, but whatever. This last level is pretty intense. It really does test all the skills you've learned so far, and it took me a few tries to get it. But I beat him, the day is saved, and we get a musical number. Hey, it is a PvZ clone, right? Gotta at least have that. So once we've beaten the game, what else is there to do? Well, there's a survival mode. It's okay. And endless mode in this game isn't really going to be as good in PvZ because there just isn't nearly as much variety in enemies or towers, so it gets kind of boring after a while. And that's really all the extra stuff there is to do. There's some achievements you could work towards, I guess, but yeah, in terms of post-game content, this game kind of falls flat. So yeah, mostly intense monster defense. It's good. Mostly. Now, I do genuinely like a lot of aspects of this game. The series is called PvZ Knockoffs, but I wouldn't really call this game a knockoff. More like a spiritual successor. It's similar, but unlike every other game I've covered so far, it does have enough of its own identity. And overall, I had fun with it. But here's the problem. When I first played this game, I beat it in 2 hours. You might take a bit longer, and if we factor in survival mode, you could have maybe a good 4, maybe 5 hour playthrough. But the thing is, this game costs $5. You know what else costs $5? Plants vs. Zombies. And that game will take at least a dozen hours for you to complete everything, and I'm seriously lowballing it. Combine that with the endless modes and replay value, you can get a lot more time out of it. I should know. So again, I think mostly intense monster defense is a good game, but it isn't really worth the money when you can get much longer games for the same price. They do sequel bait at the end, so who knows, maybe they'll make a new game with tons of new content, and it might be really good. But as for this game, if you like PvZ and want something similar yet different, this could be worth looking into, but you're probably going to want to wait for a sale. It's definitely a lot better than the other games I've covered though. That's a low bar, but still. Anyways, that'll do it for today's video. I've been Extra. Have a tremendous rest of your day.